Well, hello, I'm here with Doug to talk about Breaktooth and other things. It is August 1st, 2025. So let me start with this, which I thought was by far the most important story. Um, they found a serious vulnerability in the Bluetooth protocol and named it Breaktooth, and this is pretty brilliant. So suppose you have a Bluetooth keyboard, it associates with your computer, and then you don't use it for a while, so it goes to sleep. When it wakes
Okay.
up, it'll resume the previous connection. It turns out you can send like a ping to it while it's still on, detect remotely when it goes to sleep, and you can detect from the traffic it sent you what the identifier is for the session. So you can hijack the session. You can connect a third unauthorized device, pretend to be that keyboard, and the Bluetooth computer will never know this has happened. And now you can just type in commands and execute them on somebody else's computer. This appears to be a fundamental flaw in the Bluetooth protocol. The sleeping wake thing, apparently it uses some kind of like authenticator, which is easy to sniff and replay. And it is going to be difficult to fix.
Okay. So let's go through this again.
Yeah,
You
incredibly
got a
simple.
you got a Bluetooth keyboard that's attached to
Or of course, any Bluetooth device at all. But yes,
yeah, yeah,
it's easiest to understand the consequences of the keyboard. Yep.
yeah. So
And
you've got a Bluetooth device, and let's for this
yeah,
example, it's a keyboard.
yeah,
Okay, you haven't used the keyboard in a while because you're watching a movie.
right. So it goes to
Now,
sleep.
so the keyboard goes to sleep to conserve battery power.
Right.
Okay.
Now the attacker sends signals spoofing the keyboard and is accepted as the keyboard
But how does the attacker spoof the keyboard?
by sniffing the previous by pinging the keyboard to see that it's alive, and apparently just the replies to that ping are enough to get whatever the identifier is.
And do you know how you ping the keyboard? Do you know a little bit more about the
I don't
details?
know the details. There is a
Okay.
website, and there's even like software you can download and a demo video.
Oh,
So it's already obviously they're all ready for DEF CON.
yeah. Okay. So I get
And
it. So
yeah,
somehow you tickle the keyboard to wake it up,
I
which
assume you send
reveals,
you send Bluetooth signals to it, which
yeah,
probe to see if it's awake, and then you can tell when it quits replying. And apparently, the identifier is something simple like a MAC address or something, so you can just spoof the traffic that appears to come from the keyboard. Come to think of it, this is pretty obvious, like the garage door opener you were talking about last time. I mean, if every
right.
time I press enter, it sends the same thing, which I suppose is true, I could just replay that.
Yeah, Sam, I did look that up, and each garage door opener has a rolling code.
Oh,
And so I think, although I didn't dig too deeply, it seems like that it's a predetermined calculation of what the next one is going to be, what the next code is.
that's usually how rolling codes work. Yeah.
Yeah. So in other words, there's maybe it's I guess they do a calculation,
Yeah,
but
the
if
linear feedback shift register typically.
yeah, okay. So you know the
That's the
technical side of
old-fashioned way.
this.
Yeah, and we were just talking about it in Pulse Security Weekly because it turns out cars, the same that weakness in the cars is almost certainly what happened is they just used like the default random number generator instead of being careful and using the better one. And in
Yeah.
almost every language, the default random number generator is in fact a linear feedback shift register, which is incredibly simple. You just add a constant to the number and keep only the lower bits.
Yeah,
So it
okay.
appears to be random, but it's not really random at all.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
It's good
So
enough, to move a character in a video game, but it won't resist a serious attack by somebody that understands their math.
yeah, so what you're doing is you're just adding numbers together
Yep.
essentially.
Just getting
And
a constant number every time and letting
yeah,
it wrap around so the lower bits flip a bunch of times, and therefore you get a pseudo-random sequence of the lower bits.
yeah. Just out of curiosity, have you ever rented a car
Oh,
and
yeah.
used the key fob and you press the button and two cars respond?
No, I never had that happen.
I've had that happen, I think,
Oh,
3 times now.
wow. Well, this reminds me, I had a friend that used to drive a VW Bug years ago when they were
Yeah.
common, and one day he walked out of his house, got in a bug, started it up, drove a few blocks away, and the cops pulled him over saying, "You stole that car." He said, "Oh, this is my car. It's right in front. It had the right color. It had the right kind of junk. Hey, wait a minute. Now that you mention it, this isn't my car." but he's keyworked. And it turns out there
Yeah.
are only like 1,000 combinations of the uh, the pins, so you
Yeah.
could easily find your key working in somebody else's bug.
All right. So, but in practicality, I'm just trying to think. The only time that this Bluetooth, I can't imagine that being at somebody's home, possibly at a business, but more likely a cell phone, right?
Well, I remember years ago there was somebody that built a Bluetooth sniper rifle, and they sat on it or in a high window in a building, and they shot it across to the next building that was a bank, and they could pick up the signals from a Bluetooth keyboard, which
Oh,
at that time were unencrypted. So just like any radio, you just make.
oh,
He had his bazooka-looking thing with like
yeah,
a dish antenna, and in principle, right, it can be as far away as you want as long as you get a powerful receiver.
yeah, yeah. That's true.
So,
That's
there might
true.
be you might be able to unlock Fort Knox, from a mile away on top of a mountain, sending Bluetooth signals to open the door or something.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. And the main thing, of course, is that it's hard to patch. I think you're going to have to replace at least the firmware, maybe even the hardware of a whole bunch of devices to actually fix this. So it's going to be like so many other vulnerabilities where it's just going to stay this way until this generation of hardware is is
Right.
discarded like WEP.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So I thought that was
Yeah.
the big one.
Yeah, all right. So you brought up DEF CON
Yeah, DEF
is
CON next week.
next week. All right. So any previews on what's coming out?
I haven't paid any attention. I'll be teaching a training for 4-day training, and I haven't paid much attention to anything else.
Okay. All right. Very good.
But usually any of the InfoSec news you see around this time, it ends up being a talk at DEF CON or Black Hat.
Right. 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 Okay. So you got another story for us.
Oh yeah. Well, I got a few politics ones. I got some
Okay.
relatively serious ones and then some ridiculous ones. For a serious one, Gavin Newsom Texas is really going to redistrict to get 5 more GOP seats by gerrymandering, and Newsom seriously wants to do the same thing in California. Now, California currently, the Democrats have 33 of the state's 52 House seats. So the most you could possibly gain is 9 seats. But anyway, he wants to make a gerrymandered California plan, which would have to be a special alteration just like Texas because it's only supposed to happen every 10 years after the census. So they're both somehow breaking that sequence and doing an extra gerrymander in the wrong year just to try to rig the next election, the 26 midterms. And what he's going to do is put it before the voters. There's a special election coming up in November, the first week in November in California for some other purpose, and he wants to add to that people voting on whether to gerrymander the districts. So I guess that's how we're going to decide whether we do it or not.
I see. Okay.
Um,
So
and
it's
so,
going to be democratic. Democratic. We're going to vote on
yeah, I suppose so. And by the way, one of the Republicans was already griping and saying there's like 40% Republicans in California, but they only have like 18% of the districts. So it's already gerrymandered to hell, which might be true. I don't really know.
it. Yeah. I don't know either. That's
Yeah.
something I don't follow
I do know, however,
closely.
that California for years has had an independent, nonpartisan agency to do the districting to avoid gerrymandering. So we've gone about as far as anybody can to not gerrymander, and this represents a reversal of that, imitating the evil Republican states, which is a big issue in the Democratic Party. The Republicans fight dirty, and we act like Superman, like we have these code of principles that we'll stick to and not fight dirty. And the Democrats are about fed up with that. After the latest term of Trump has said, we need to fight dirty. We need to win. Those high principles can't really be applied when we're actually having a fascist takeover, destroying everything.
That's true.
Well, that's what the Jews said after Hitler, and now they have finished turning completely into their enemy, running a genocide against Gaza. So that's the risk. I mean, once you abandon your principles, you tend to descend to the level of your enemy. So there's an argument on the other side too.
That's true. That's
Anyway,
true too.
but we're going to all get to vote on it, and
So
yeah.
we'll see. They had an election here. It was a ballot measure to increase property taxes to go to the schools. Sounds good.
Mhm.
And there was just one in the previous election that raised property taxes.
Yeah.
So they kind of slipped this in as a special voting. What do you call it?
Special ballot or something. Yeah.
Special ballot, yeah, that took place over the summer or something. I don't know,
And when you do
out of
that, almost nobody
sequence.
votes.
Right. And that was what the goal was.
Yeah.
But they were shocked because a lot of people turned out and it went down
Yeah. That's
and
why
it
it's
did
really
not
important to
pass.
like canvass and communicate for these ones. You can really affect it by getting your people out to vote.
Yeah.
That's why, I
Yeah.
think Kamala announced that she's not going to run for governor, and people think she's probably not going to run for president either, which I think is the right move. We need an exciting Democrat. I think Kamala is not it.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
seems like she's just had it with politics. That's what she said. I'm going to go back to the private sector. This whole politics thing sucks, which I think it does.
It does. All right. What
Yeah.
else you have? What's next?
Well, so Trump made a deal with Columbia. Now he held back, after Ivy League schools, he held back all their money, billions of
Right.
dollars, saying you can't have it unless you do a whole bunch of things like help us deport all your foreign students, squash campus protests, end all the DEI, end your women's studies and Arab studies departments and everything, and also let us install a political orthodoxy monitor to keep track of everything and control your classes, who you hire, what the content of your classes to make sure it meets our political goals. And Columbia apparently agreed to all that and only had to pay a $221 million fine in the settlement. So Harvard is the next one. He's targeting these schools, and they say Harvard is currently negotiating a deal. And the question is, will they settle for having a political orthodoxy agent on campus to control their decisions? If they do that, they might be able to get down to just a $200 million fine. If they don't do that, they're going to have to pay more, estimated to be $500 million or $1 billion fine if you actually expect Trump to release the federal money and not have a political orthodoxy agent installed. So that's the current battle. And this is pretty horrifying stuff. Joseph
Yeah.
McCarthy's wet dream, it makes
Yeah.
every school
Yeah.
totally under control of the government. And, been shutting down all the scientific research agencies. And they ended the EPA's function. They've ended the rule that where climate change matters. Climate change is no longer a real thing in America. So all anti-pollution measures are effectively canceled. So we're becoming a theocracy with, a bunch of
And
orthodox statements. Yeah.
yeah, and we public broadcasting lost their funding.
Yeah. Yep.
And the one that I was kind of not surprised, but sort of surprised about was NSF, National Science Foundation.
Oh yeah, several months ago. NSF is
Yeah,
basically all, and they canceled all the grants in progress too, just like they
right.
canceled the space missions in progress. There's stuff like I think there's stuff abandoned on Mars that we can't pick up because they canceled the money. And just like we had to destroy a whole bunch of vaccines and a whole bunch of food in warehouses because they just canceled the funding, so they don't even have the money to deliver it to the people it was going to go to. It's
Yeah,
just appalling. And
right.
this is why people like Gavin Newsom say, we got to fight dirty. We got to win. This stuff is horrible. So we'll see.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
Elon Musk is at it again. Um, he's consistent. He's consistently, a white supremacist, a Nazi, a eugenicist, believes in the master race. And so they had a discussion on Twitter, which I read about secondhand. I'm not there anymore because I can't stand that part of town. But so someone asked why liberal women, white women hate white people so much. And he speculates they've been programmed to do so by their teachers and the media. So this other poster says women conform because they are built to be traded to another tribe or captured, and then conform to the new world. So this is a real, this is something that probably would have sounded about right in maybe 1750, along with the God chose the white race to be superior and I think another thing and believed a lot of those days is that the men control everything about the children. So it's okay if you kidnap women from some other race and breed with them because the women don't contribute anything to them anyway. That kind of thinking. So anyway, Musk is persuaded with this and reshared the post with his 223 million followers and said, "Yeah, you're on the right track there." So he's at it. He's consistent.
yeah, yeah,
He's got the attitudes that from a couple centuries ago where white people are just superior and everybody else is just inferior, and women are just inferior apparently, and they're to be dominated and controlled by men. A lot of real old ideas, are coming back.
Right. Right. Well, what's old is new.
Yeah, well, I got one more politics, which is so this guy in Oklahoma, the Board of Education, the superintendent of public education, is a complete crazy right winger that bought Trump Bibles for all the schools and made them post the
Right.
Ten Commandments. And then he had a board meeting and played pornography during the board meeting.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he's responded to the accusation. They're having like an investigation or an accusation of where did this porn come from? And he has taken the Donald Trump line. He says it never happened. There was no pornography at all. The other board members are lying about it. The press is all fake news reporting about it. I blame the media. The governor put them up to it. And there's already been an investigation which cleared me when the investigation hasn't even started yet. So he's trying to just spew out crazy lies. That's his current position, is none of this is real. I don't think that's going to work. So,
He's just not powerful enough.
well, I remember there was a guy in California that ran for governor or something when Trump ran for, I think, in the midterms of Trump, and he tried to claim that the election was fraudulent and he really won and announced that like 2 days before the election. And then just sort of gave up and dropped the ball later. I mean, after Trump did this, when he just declared he won, other Republicans tried it, but none of them have the salesman ability to push it through.
Right.
They all
Yeah.
give up. They still
Yeah.
feel like some shame or some adherence to the truth. Trump is able to just 100% commit to this and preach it, which I guess is a salesman thing.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think he believes it himself. And other people have tried to do it, haven't really done it. Like there's that woman, not Lauren, Carrie Lake. Carrie Lake did that. She claimed that she won the governorship of Arizona and went for 2 years suing everybody and claiming the election was rigged and everything else, and even claiming that she was currently the governor because the election was false. And she never got anywhere with it. But she's the only one I know that actually kept saying it for years. Now I think she's in the Trump administration somewhere, but she was a weather girl. She was originally a weather girl in Arizona. Then she ran for governor and claimed to have won. Anyway, now I think she made it into some position in the Trump administration. So
Yeah.
we live in amazing times. This is a kakistocracy, when the very worst people run your government, and they just put more. I'm just waiting for Alex Jones to be put on the Supreme Court or something. I don't know what's holding that up.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's
Yeah,
continue on.
yeah. So I got tech. I got some more technical stories. Uh, Microsoft has Copilot, and they added a feature in Copilot in April of this year that enables a live Python sandbox running Jupyter notebooks that can execute code in the back end. So you can ask it, execute like PS or ID in that thing. And at first it'll say, I don't want to just directly execute commands in there, but after a while you can get it to. And after you get it to execute one command, you can gradually get it to execute another command and another command. Because this is the thing about large language models. You can sort of gradually move them because they remember your chat history. And so you can get them to do something a little bit strange, and then a little more, if you're at, and eventually you can get them to do things that violate their rules because you get there step by step. And that's
I
what you
see.
do
I
here.
see.
So he's able to eventually elevate himself to root. He got the LM to identify he's running as a low privilege user, but then he was able to get a directory of the files. Then he was able to find a script that automatically executed. Then he found a script that would execute as root, and the script executed pgrep to list the processes, but it didn't give the full path to pgrep, so it'll hunt through the whole file system for pgrep. So he was able to create a file called pgrep.py in a different directory where he has write permissions, which executes instead of the real pgrep as root and escalate himself up to root. So it's an interesting little exercise in pen testing. But then when he's done, it turned out it doesn't matter. All you end up is you end up inside a Docker container, and there's nothing interesting in the Docker container. So,
So
yeah.
Sam, this sounds sort of analogous to a SQL injection.
Well, it is command
Sort of.
injection, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not even injection. It's actually, yeah, you're able to do command injection, and then you have to somehow escalate privileges the next
Yeah.
step. And that's what he was able to do. But that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you have command injection, these are the standard steps. But anyway, Microsoft dispatched it. So
Oh. Okay, so that's come and gone.
But since you mentioned SQL injection, this is the other one I thought was actually possibly really important. So as I'm sure you know, if you write PHP, you write and you connect to a SQL database, you have the problem of SQL injection if you put in unfiltered parameters from the user. But if you use PDO to connect to the database, you use prepared statements, and that ends SQL injection, right? That's the recommended procedure. Nobody's ever found a way to get in. Well, it turns out they got in because MySQL does not actually use the PDO API by default. Instead, it emulates it for some ungodly reason. There's an environment variable called PDO colon atter emulate prepares, which in its default setting, PDO in fact uses the old system and just automatically tries to sanitize the input. And therefore, you can make a complicated injection that will work through the PDO connection. So that's horrible. And they just make this strange new injection that includes a backtick and a null byte. But it it's amazing. MySQL doesn't actually use the PDO, which is part of its feature set. It uses some imperfect emulation, which can still be injected. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Ah,
yep, hopefully
okay.
they'll patch that nonsense. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see.
Then I got a few little ones. Have you got one?
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I have something I can piggyback on yours. I'm kind of saving mine.
All right. Well, I got a couple more little ones. There's a company. So there was a guy that had some kind of scandal, like he was arrested or something, and he wanted to get the information off the web. So they found a Google search feature called Refresh Outdated Content. You can go here and you can tell them content has changed. You need to reload it. And if you put in a URL and it goes to the URL and there's nothing there, it will just remove it from the database. And he found out, now, URLs are not typically case sensitive, but this tool
Right.
is case sensitive. So all you have to do is put in the URL, capitalize a few random letters. It will try to go there, not find it, and say, oh, it's gone, and take it down. So he used this trick to cancel the Google search results that would find him. So I don't know if Google
Hmm.
patched that, but I imagine that if they haven't, they will pretty soon.
I see. I see.
And so we're supposed to have an embargo on shipping AI powerful processing chips to China, but
Right.
China spent $1 million to send their representative to Trump's inauguration. So since they paid the bribe, Trump has approved sending AI chips to China. However, they are supposed to be limited in some way. So, lawmakers in Washington have expressed concern about chip smuggling and introduced a bill that would require chip makers like NVIDIA to embed location tracking into export controlled hardware. So, this is like the Microsoft N version of Windows. Remember this back in the 90s and early 2000s, where they had the special export ready N and K versions of
Right.
Windows, which had weaker cryptography. So, they have now NVIDIA has made special chips just to go to China, but the Chinese regulator has said these chips have location tracking and can be remotely shut down. So China is, however, tech experts are skeptical that it's really there, pointing to a lack of detail in the announcement. So people are currently arguing whether this is true or not. But they're claiming the China approved chip is in fact sabotaged. So
Okay.
they'll probably be hearing more about that as it goes on.
All right.
And here's something I'm not quite sure what to make of this. This is okay. One of the companies that does vulnerability research had been scanning networks, and they found that in 80% of cases, you will see a spike in malicious activity like network reconnaissance, targeted scanning, and brute forcing attacking edge networking devices. And these come in a few weeks before the disclosure of new security vulnerabilities, CVEs.
Yeah.
So, and exactly why is not entirely clear, although I guess they do find a lot of vulnerabilities because they find people exploiting them. But anyway, they said perhaps you should be monitoring. And when people start scanning your stuff, then you should take preventive measures, assuming there's a vulnerability you don't know about yet. So I'm not quite sure what you can do with this, but it is interesting. Normally, I've
Yeah.
heard the opposite. Like after the patch comes out, then there's a bunch of attacks. After the proof of concept comes out, then there's a bunch of attacks. But apparently, there's also a bunch of attacks before it comes out,
I see.
which I would think, I guess what this means is somebody finds it, it goes through the black market in secret for a while. People start using it, and it takes a couple of weeks before it finds it above ground. I don't know, something like that. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
um, so Microsoft has caught Russian hackers targeting foreign embassies. And what they do is pretty interesting. They trick you into running a script, and then that installs a malicious TLS root certificate. So now they can send you to fake websites that will pass the HTTPS test. So I mean, I've heard about this. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody actually doing this. I've heard of DNS changers where they mess with DNS, but also installing a fake root certificate is pretty powerful. And I'm not sure I've heard of that happening before.
No, it's happened before. I think it was in China, the Chinese post office, which issues the certs, was sharing a building or an office with somebody else, and somehow they broke in and they got legitimate certs, and they were on the market selling them for no good.
I
I
think
don't remember. That was probably about 10 years ago.
Yeah, I've also heard of in China, they force you to install an app on your phone, and that app does this in addition to other things. It monitors your phone but that's not secret or anything. It's just a government requirement that you have the phone monitoring app.
Yeah, no, this was these were legitimate certs that were being used, I think, to spy on people. I've now it's been at least a decade since that
You know,
story came out.
I remember years ago, if you had like an anti-spyware program on my Windows machine, it would warn you if anything changed in hosts.
Right.
And it
Yeah.
really ought to warn you if a new certificate gets installed. But I guess, that's just a matter of social engineering. Oh, that warning will go off, but don't pay attention to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I got one more,
Yeah.
which is probably not too surprising. YouTube is now going to have, it's already employing AI to try to detect the age of people viewing YouTube, which is increasingly important. I think Australia just declared that they have to kick everybody off YouTube if they're not 16 and above. Although apparently
Yeah.
they can still view videos, but they can't have accounts. So I think what they're worried about is the chat underneath the videos. And they didn't say exactly why, but I think that's right. I think they're worried about pedophiles, chatting pigs up on YouTube. Anyway,
Ah, okay. That's got
so,
it.
so anyway, the question is, are we all going to have to send our driver's license to Google to use YouTube? And apparently not, because YouTube is throughout the first half of August, the next couple of weeks, YouTube will begin interpreting a variety of signals to determine if you're under 18. They'll look at things like the age of your account, the type of videos you've been watching, and things like that, and try to somehow guess if you're over 18. Anyone determined to be too young will automatically be hit with protections, with YouTube disabling their personalized advertising, turning on digital well-being tools, and limiting repetitive views of some kinds of content determined to be too harmful or too mature. So that'll be interesting.
Hmm.
And I wonder, this is, of course, the big problem we've been talking about for months. How do you find out if somebody is over the age you care about, like 16 or 18 online? There's no good way.
Right. Right.
And so they're going to try to use AI followed by other patterns of your activity to decide. Uh, I don't know. We're going to find.
Yeah. I don't know either. This is going to get interesting, but it sounds like what they're trying to do is use big data and look for patterns.
Yeah.
And
And they'd really like to not alienate all their viewers. So, I mean, I guess, if you assume that when someone
yeah.
makes a Gmail account, they must be like at least 6 or 8. Those of us that have had a Gmail account for 20 years, you can assume we're over 18, I guess. That would be good.
Yeah. 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 Identifiers like that. Yeah.
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 And maybe videos, if anybody's watching my boring lectures, they're probably not a teenager. I don't know. I don't know what you're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
If you have YouTube set for autoplay,
Yeah.
you could just have videos keep playing, and you could probably manipulate this to a degree.
I know extremist researchers did things like make an account, just tell them I'm a housewife in like Iowa and
Yeah.
nothing else, and then measure how long before it starts showing me QAnon stuff. And it isn't very long. So they demonstrated, why people fall into the rabbit hole. Because if you just seem to have sort of a red state profile, it'll start showing you Republican stuff, and pretty soon it'll veer into the crazy stuff, apparently. at least a few
Right.
years ago. Then they claimed they improved the algorithm. And I don't know, I've been watching YouTube and it hasn't shown me anything bad, but it goes by my likes. And all I see is pretty much news and music
Yeah. Huh.
and not
Huh.
crazy news either. It doesn't seem to be trying to veer me off in any crazy town as far as I can tell.
Yeah. 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 Same for me too. So since we're on this AI, have you heard about Hertz,
The car
the
company,
car rental? Yeah, company.
I don't know what they're doing with AI. I know they got a huge fleet of electric vehicles and then they sold them because they said they were too hard to maintain.
Yeah. Which is kind of ironic.
Yeah, they're
And I
supposed to
think,
be cheaper, but apparently they weren't.
well, I think what was happening is people were returning them uncharged. And so it would take, hours for them to get charged.
Yeah,
And they'd have new customers that would want a car and they drive away and it only has a quarter charge or, something like that. Limited
yeah.
range.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
problem. That's the problem everybody has with electric cars. You can't just fill them up in 5 minutes like you can with gas.
Right, right.
I don't know
Unless
why
you
we
go
don't
to,
just swap the
yeah.
batteries. That would be an obvious solution. Apparently, there's some Chinese ones that do that, but it never became popular. That would seem like the obvious solution.
I think the issue is there are two issues. One is they use the battery framework as part of the frame of the car.
Uh,
So if you take the batteries out, then you're essentially removing part of the frame.
right. Well, they'd have to make it so the battery could easily be removed, like a flashlight, which apparently is more difficult than I would think.
Yeah, yeah. And the other is, I think, the electrical connectors,
Yeah.
because
Well,
you have such high amperage.
yeah, that would seem like the obvious solution to me, but we didn't go there. So,
Yeah, we didn't go there. Boy, that was something that was going on, what, about 15 years ago?
yeah, and even the rapid charge still takes a while. Like it takes like at least a half hour, and that doesn't fill it all the way up, right?
Well, it depends on the vehicle. So, and it depends on the charger.
Yeah.
So some chargers, and boy, this got into a big kind of issue. So some EVs that are on the more affordable side, the actual charger, if you will, is in the car itself. And so it can only accommodate when it's fast charging, it can only accommodate so much energy coming in.
Right.
So it's think of it, you could charge at 50 miles an hour. However, the chargers can put out at 300 miles an hour. And yeah, I realize I'm not using electrical current, but I think it's easier to relate to miles per hour.
Yeah.
So what's happening is people, and if you have something like a Rivian, some of the Teslas, I think they can charge at 250, 300 miles per hour.
Yeah.
So now you have somebody who has a Bolt, which is from GM. They can only charge at 50 miles an hour, but
Yeah.
they park at one of the chargers that can do
Right.
300.
Right. So they're tying it up.
So they're tying up the 300, which
Yeah.
then leaves the person that could use the 300 to
Yeah.
use the lower rate charger.
Yeah.
And so the people in the bolts don't understand that, oh, I'll just use any one.
Well,
And
also,
yeah,
can the
yeah.
battery take fast charging? I mean, I know for phones, I think fast charging harms the battery.
Well, what it's
Does it shorten
um,
the life of the battery to charge it fast? I mean, I don't know.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Um, I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
Yeah. Anyway, so the problem is now that, when they installed the fast chargers, they kind of said, well, let's put in one or two of the fast ones
yeah.
and we'll put in several of the slow ones because it's more economical.
Yeah.
But people who have the bigger cars don't want to sit there for an hour when they could sit there for 15 minutes.
Well, you could put that in the software where if you plug your slow car into the fast one, it says, no, you can't use this one. You have to use the one down there.
Yeah, but what if that one down there is in use
Well,
and
you could tell that in the software, right? You could say,
yeah,
I mean, I could see
uh,
ways to do it, but anyway.
Yeah, but I think what's going to happen is the simple solution is
Make
don't
them
put
all.
in the slow chargers.
Right. That's a simpler solution. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's going on. Tesla's replacing chargers,
Yeah.
and the big companies like Volkswagen, EVgo, and EV America, or Electrify America, EA, whatever those are, they're replacing the slower chargers with the faster ones.
All right. But anyway, you were going to say something about AI.
Yeah, so AI, we're talking about Hertz. Hertz, the rental car company. So Hertz is now using AI, and they have AI scanners. So when you rent a car, you drive through the scanner, and it looks for defects in the paint and dents and things like that.
Well, that would be nice because I'm supposed to walk around the car and mark something on a little diagram, and I never do that. So it automatically
Exactly.
does that for you. That would be nice if it
It
worked.
automatically does that for you.
Does it work? Or does it make up nonsense like AIs tend to?
Well, Sam, hold on. You're jumping ahead in the story here.
Yeah.
So people now, so Hertz has this in several locations as a test, a proof of concept, if you will.
Yeah.
And people are now, they drive back to Hertz to return the car. They go through the scanner. There's nobody there. And it says, oh, we see these beads of water. We're going to charge you for this because you've obviously damaged the car.
Uh,
Well, wait a minute. I didn't damage the car. All you have to do is wipe the water off, and
yeah.
you can see there's no damage. So they've taken pictures after they've gone through the scanner, but they've already been charged. So they call up Hertz, and I'm making this part up
Yeah.
because it'll sound funny, but they get an AI attendant
Yeah.
who's not able to help them. Anyway, their customers are now leaving Hertz because they're being charged hundreds, thousands of dollars for damage that's
Yeah.
not there.
Yeah. This is the problem. McDonald's, I
Yeah.
think, had AI voice orders and they rolled them all back because they kept screwing up the orders.
Oh, I, I
You'd get
went
you'd
to
get 15 hamburgers or some damn thing because it didn't understand you correctly.
I went to where it was Taco Bell. It was the
Yeah.
only restaurant open at, I don't
Yeah.
know, midnight. And I wound up getting something like 17 burritos.
Yeah. This is the thing. And this is why I keep telling people I consult for, this is the right way to deploy AI is deploy it on a small scale and then pay attention to the problems
Yeah,
because there probably will be problems and you want to like deal with the problems
yeah, yeah,
before you like
yeah.
trust it or actually bill customers. You should totally have a customer service rep, a human, able to deal with the problems. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, speaking about AI, are you familiar, I think, with 11 Labs?
11 labs?
Is it 7 labs or 11 labs?
I'm not.
They have AI tools that are
Oh.
very good at impersonating.
Oh, impersonating people?
Yeah,
Oh, there's
yeah,
a bunch of them. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but very good.
Yeah, I know Scott Galloway has trained an AI on all of his videos and stuff because he gets too many emails asking for help. So people are going to get connected to the synthetic AI version of him to give you your help, which I think is pretty popular. I know I've heard OnlyFan models and stuff are doing that. They make an AI version of themselves and you can like chat with them and they can be your girlfriend or something. Um,
All right, what else you got? Got some more
well,
stories?
you just reminded me. There's one I cut up, but I decided since we brought it up, it'd be interesting. Did you hear about this electric car that can drive upside down?
I think I've heard something about it, but
It's
now,
it's the McMurtry Spearling, and what it is they made the smallest possible car. They put in two 1,000 horsepower engines, and they put a huge fan on the bottom to suck it down into the ground. So it has enough traction not to fly off the track. And it only weighs 1,000 kilograms and it can generate like 2,000 kilograms of downward pressure. So they put it in something and turned it upside down and it's there hanging on the ceiling like a fly. And it can
uh,
go from 0 to 60 in 1.3 seconds. Because I mean that's why Elon Musk went into EVs anyway, is because they really have a lot of acceleration.
Yeah.
Natural
Yeah,
sports
that they
cars.
do.
And these guys decided to go all out and make, I think it cost like $1 million. They said, we're going to make a real race car using the most powerful EV. And this thing is awesome. Blast past other cars.
So, Sam, I got a
Hmm.
question for you. This is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so this is like Formula One cars,
Right.
where Formula One cars, they effectively have wings to
Right.
push the car down,
Right.
right? So with this, it's kind of like a hovercraft.
In
Is it
reverse. Yeah.
in
Sucking down instead of,
reverse?
yep. And they say, by the way, it's incredibly noisy. It sounds like a jet engine playing a kazoo.
Yeah, yeah, okay. I get that. But I guess my question is, doesn't that has to increase the coefficient of friction?
I imagine. Yes.
Yeah.
But you do need the tires to grip so you can steer. Otherwise, you'll fly right off the road.
Yeah, otherwise then it's a true hovercraft.
Yep.
But this is sucking down. So the other problem you have, well, maybe it's not a problem, but there won't be any litter on the highways, would there be?
Well,
Because you're gonna blast it out, right?
well, I was thinking maybe you'd be sucking it all in, so you might actually be sucking all the dirt and dust off the road into it. But anyway, apparently it works. They have videos of it racing around tracks, zipping past the other cars. Because
Okay,
apparently it's
so
really fast.
yeah, but I'm just the coefficient of friction.
Yeah, it has to go
It's
up.
yeah, but it's air, right?
Well, air is what's pushing you down, but it's just like you had a lot of weight in it. I mean, it's just the tires. And basically, it's a pretty light car
Uh,
anyway. So you basically made it weigh as much as a normal car. That's all
so
you've
so
done.
effectively what you're doing is the downward pressure is
Yeah,
increasing the friction on the tires.
right.
So so even though it might weigh like that of a
I,
motorcycle,
I think, yeah, it weighs 1 ton and it now effectively has 2 tons of downward pressure, something
yeah,
like that.
okay, okay.
So
Yeah,
that it's
got it,
not,
got it, got
yeah.
it.
And so it's not just more friction, it's actually sticking to the surface, which must help when you're going around curves and stuff. You're adhering to the surface. Like that's why it can go totally upside down. It's clinging to the surface like a fly.
Yeah, the physics of this is kind of interesting. So you're pulling down,
Well, you
but it
basically got
doesn't,
a jet engine pushing you down. And if you
yeah,
go up a hill, a sideways a ramp, then it's you're pushing, perpendicular to the surface. So you're
yeah.
clinging to the surface with enough force to overcome the weight of the car.
So it's the opposite of a hovercraft, which is
Right.
actually lifting the car or lifting
Exactly.
the vehicle off the ground,
Yeah, and of
which
course, one
makes
problem
it
with a
lighter.
hovercraft is you don't have any friction at all, so it's like an airplane. You're going to have to stop by actually having a jet push forward to slow you down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, right, right.
yeah,
Okay, got it, got it.
yeah,
This
yeah.
answer, yeah,
Anyway, I thought it's
yeah.
pretty interesting.
Yeah, pretty interesting, huh?
Yeah. All right, that's all I
All
got.
right. That's all I got too.
Okay, we'll have another one of these on Tuesday. The Friday after that, I think I'll be teaching at DEF CON, so we'll probably have to postpone or do that one at a different time. We'll work
Okay,
it out. But Tuesday, I'm still here.
sounds good.